We begin in a jail cell, perhaps the loneliest place on earth. Two men sit alone, meditating not on their crimes, but on their activism. Philip and Daniel Berrigan are the men, radical peace activists and Jesuit priests. They are turning through the pages of their Bible, remembering their call, listening to the voice of the holy, still resonant for them in that God-forsaken place. Daniel turns to his brother. "What good are we doing?" he asks. "What good can we possibly be doing for those that hold our lives and the lives of so many others in their hands? Are we teaching them anything? The world rulers, our president, the powerful, are they moved by our acts? Will anything we do touch them, transform them?" Philip pauses. Philip pauses. He breathes deep, and with a still, small voice intones, "Brother, we are their only hope." What hubris! What boast! We, he says, we two brothers, caught in the act of radical activism, we are their only hope. And whose hope? The very leaders whose laws, whose wars they so ardently oppose. Do we rise with them and champion their pride? Or do we shake our heads meagerly and scoff at their naivete? Scoff at their bravado. Two men, alone in a cell, disempowered absolutely by the rule of law, that very human construct. Held captive by jurisprudence, guided only by their particular interpretation of an ancient text, an interpretation that sets their hearts on fire for peace and for love. What madness moves Philip to declare, "We are their only hope"? The assertion speaks two dual and parallel truths. First, a radical inclusion. An inclusion that King championed, an inclusion that Ta-Nehisi Coates echoed, a radical inclusion. They have no enemies, only opponents, and even these opponents they love. Their service holds their opponents' lives in the balance. And second, a radical affirmation of their cause. They believe wholeheartedly. Their conviction does not quake, it does not falter. We are, even in their imprisonment, their only hope. Yes?
Yes.
Could we believe so ardently in our cause? Could we?
Yes.
Should we?
Yes.
Could we love so holistically? Could we love so that no one, not even our opponents, fall beyond the boundary of inherent worth and dignity?
Yes.
Let me ask you then, why do you serve? What calls you out of the solace of your day to make food for the hungry, to give voice to the disenfranchised, to knit bracelets for those who need to be held, to knit blankets for the bedridden, to run sound for our worship service, to advocate for the just cause, to find seats for the latecomers, to teach our children, to take minutes at the board meeting, and the list goes on and on. And what calls you out of the busyness of your pace, to love the rejected, to see the invisible, to hear the voiceless, to show up, to be counted, to be present, to be love. Are there perhaps moments when you feel that our cause here, the cause of our faith tradition, is necessary?
Oh, yeah.
That it is perhaps the hope for our world? Humility balks at the assertion, and there is a place for humility. But there's also a place for radical courage and radical love. Why? We are in a culture war. A culture war. Our culture says that life is cheap and it is expendable. If we were to follow the news, we would see that the refugee on the shore is one more mouth to feed. The family in Aleppo, they are already lost. The injured man on the street, he is a danger to the completion of our to-do list. And once we send our soldiers to war, their names become numbers, their lives become casualties, and the deaths on our streets, the families torn one from another, these are termed collateral damage. A heartless, bloodless term. Our culture says life is cheap, it is expendable. And if we were to believe the advertisements, then we have only 3 purposes in life, and all of them are selfish. Drink the right beverage and you will be popular. Drive the right car and you will be feared. Wear the right scent and you will be loved. Right? Our culture says that life is frivolous. And if we trust the worldview of the radical factions, whether they stand for partisanship, racial purity, or religious extremism, we would come to understand our nation and our world as split, divided, separated, and inextricably broken. Our culture says we are broken. So if we trust the news, the commercials, and the loudest voices the world round, we would come to know our lives as expendable, frivolous, and broken. Expendable, frivolous, and broken. Have you heard those voices? Are they the voices that you want your soul, your ministry, to echo? I know a faith born to challenge these cultural assumptions, and I believe you know it too. I know it well. It has a long name with too many syllables. Too many syllables to fit on our sign out there comfortably. But each of them is necessary, as it and we are necessary. This faith is Unitarian Universalism. This tradition, our tradition, challenges the culturally peddled nonsense of our expendability by honoring every life as inherently worthy and dignified. And this tradition, our tradition, challenges the commercially peddled imbecility of human frivolity by calling us all to the very real work of growing a soul. And this tradition, our tradition, challenges radical hate by drawing the circle of love wide enough to hold us all. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Perhaps we are. Perhaps we are our and their only hope. And again, when I say there, I am echoing Philip Berrigan. I do not mean the poor, the disenfranchised, the oppressed alone. Those our loving hearts so easily enfold. I mean the oppressors, the franchised, and the wealthy. I mean those that are powerless and those that hold nearly ultimate power. It is not pride that moved Philip to testify his holistic calling. It is a bold and an unrestricted love, married to a profound courage, the courage to serve. I've been working on building this courage all of my days. I had to work on it. A teacher asked me once why I felt the need to defend my own understanding of truth so passionately. Why do you need to convince me that you are right and I am wrong, he asked. My realization, it came slowly, and it came by weighing two very different conversations that I had with the same uncle. In the first conversation, I was arguing the errors of the Trinity, something I'd learned to do very well in seminary. I was trying to shake his Catholic faith with my biblical know-how. And as I did, my face grew warm, and I sensed within me a trembling, a need perhaps to win. In the second conversation, I spoke to my uncle about the beauty of his gay son. I spoke of my love for his son and my love for him. And I shared my conviction that God, even his God, loves all of her children. In that conversation, my face remained cool. I was certain, I was steady. I did not need to win. I needed to love. I needed holy love to overcome what felt like an insurmountable obstacle. Arguing the error on the Trinity was self-serving. I wanted to be right. That never happens, does it, Reverend Scott?
Heavens no.
When I was there to serve my own ends, I was unsteady. I was standing on the shaky ground of ego. But when I was there to serve my cousin and his dad, when I was there to rectify their relationship with my understanding of holy love, I was there for them. I was living as if my faith was their and my only hope. All are deserving of our attention and our love, especially our perceived foe. If we are bold, says Mother Angelou, love strikes away the chains of fear from our souls. We are weaned from our timidity, weaned from our weak desire to win. And suddenly we see that love costs all that we are and will ever be, yet it is only love which sets us free. Love is the tuition and the reward. The tuition and the reward. A water pipe burst in northeast DC. In seconds, the dip in the street flooded and a car was trapped. An older woman was inside. Some fled, some watched. A man, recognized as Latin American, not a Samaritan, but maybe Latin American. He was the only one to step into the torrent and pull her from her vehicle. He lifted her to safety and then he left. Why didn't he stay? The news cameras would be there soon. He was a hero. He was not a citizen. Love might have cost him his livelihood, perhaps his family, but love struck away the chains of his fear. If we are bold, love strikes away the chains of our fear. Yes?
Yes.
He had everything to lose, but he acted. In the Princeton Seminary experiment, only 10% of the students, I'm really glad I wasn't in this experiment. of the students that were hurrying stopped to help the victim. Nearly 63% of the students given a bit more time to cross the campus stopped. They stopped and they served. What did the ones that didn't stop have to gain? A couple extra points on an exam, maybe. Heartbreaking and true. We have to be bold to strike away the chains of fear. We have to know, we have to feel, we have to admit not that we are right, but that we are needed. Not that we will win, but that we are necessary. And courage, it will come. It will come. You are so most definitely necessary. All of you. Perhaps this sermon should come with a parental advisory. A don't try this at home warning. Do you remember where we began? In prison. With two souls that spent nearly as much time behind bars as they spent in their Jesuit seminaries and sanctuaries. And if we continue to look around and consider the souls who gave of themselves similarly, we don't find any easy stories. These are not the Real Housewives of New Jersey. We might look to Reverend Dr. King, shot down for his conviction, buried as his children wept. Or we might consider Mother Teresa. Now there's an interesting one. We witnessed her good works. We might even call her a saint. But did you read her journals published after her death? They are filled with debilitating doubts about everything, even about the presence of her God. And we might even look to Robin Williams, who gave his all to serve us with his brilliance, with his remarkable talent, while his soul broke from within. Who am I then to recommend brave service? What good can come of convicted courage, the courage to live beyond sadness, beyond doubt, beyond fear for one's own life? What good? There's an old comparison between two ancient seas, the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. They are each quite compelling, visually, quite beautiful, but only one sustains life. The Galilee, it takes in water and it gives it out. It takes in water and it gives it out. The Dead Sea is stagnant. It receives water from the desert rains, but it has no rivulets, no tributaries. Its waters serve only salt blocks and floating tourists. Our heroes, they have perished like King. They have struggled like Teresa. They have given their all, and they have given up like Williams. But they fed multitudes. What came to them, they gave. And even if our fear rejects this truth, we'll paint it this way. Service, it is as natural to us as breath. Will you breathe with me? We breathe in. And oxygen, it feeds our muscles, our bones, our cells. We breathe out. And whether we mean it or not, the carbon dioxide, it feeds the grass and the trees. We breathe in, and we are nourished. We breathe out, and our planet greens. We are all Galilee. Do you feel me? Yes. This is why we are here. And when I say we, I don't just mean Reverend Scott and I. I mean all of us. Our culture puts forth many masters for us to serve, from Lord Google to the pull of luxury and leisure, to the test of completing our to-do list, to the prize of winning, of being right. The ancients were always toppling idols like these, idols of false promises and frivolous golden gods, may we do likewise. There is no leader for us to serve. There is no leader for us to serve, but service itself. Our call is not to be right, but to be needed. It is not to win, but to serve. May we all be brave enough. May love, may service, may it cost all that we are as it sets us free. Amen.